Hi there, welcome to this Polish Up Your Pedagogy video about how to create a numeracy rich environment in your classroom. This is part one of two videos. This professional learning links to the learning sale on the Pedagogy Sales, which is learners progress through high quality learning opportunities to enrich knowledge, promote curiosity and develop skills for learning, life and work. This also links to your GTCS standards of 3.2.1, critically and effectively organise and manage learning. So over the two videos, we will be looking at three different areas that contribute to the numeracy-rich learning environment: the classroom culture, the physical environment, and manipulatives and games that you can use to enhance that environment. In this video today, we will look at what we can do to create a positive classroom culture. And then you can go to the video of part two to learn more about the physical environment and some manipulatives and games. So how do we create a positive classroom culture? Well, first of all, I'd like to share a quote from Jo Boaler's book, Mathematical Mindsets, in which she writes, "The new evidence from brain research tells us that everyone with the right teaching and messages can be successful in mathematics and that everyone can achieve at the highest levels in school." So it's absolutely essential that we have high expectations for each and every one of our pupils. It's really important that our pupils themselves know that we have high expectations for them. Many children dislike numeracy in maths because they find it too difficult or boring. So it's our job as practitioners to let the children experience the joy in learning numeracy. So it is critical that we create a culture in our classrooms where numeracy and maths are valued. So in planning for numeracy, we must ensure that children have opportunities for deep learning. We must pitch instruction just beyond the cutting edge of their learning. And if we are providing children with rich tasks, this results in them having to think hard to solve tasks, reorganise their approach, develop new strategies or gain new insights. We want our learners to be thinking really hard during lessons and not just working their way through textbook pages or worksheets and never getting on to the problem-solving task at the end. Worksheets and textbooks are still fine to dip in and out of course, but we need to think carefully about the why. Why are we using them, and what are the children going to learn from using them? It's essential to look critically at the questions or pages in the textbooks or on the worksheets that you've chosen, and to ask ourselves if these are the best resources to use in order for the children to learn what it is that we want them to learn. Good planning should include a clear focus on the purpose of the learning activities. We also need to ensure the culture in the classroom, the language that we use, the feedback that we give to learners supports a growth mindset. We also need to ensure that we as teachers have growth mindsets ourselves and believe that all of our children are capable of reaching their full potential in numeracy and maths. Jo Boaler states that it is very difficult to have a growth mindset in maths if you're constantly given short, closed questions that you get right or wrong. This transmits fixed messages about maths that you can either do it or you can't. So we want our children to believe they can grow their brain and achieve anything in maths. And this leads us nicely on to the third thing to consider, which is learning from mistakes. We need children to know that our brains grow and that learning happens when we make mistakes. Children in our classrooms should feel confident enough to take risks in numeracy and maths and to realise that making mistakes can be a good thing. This is the same for teachers. When modelling strategies on the board and verbalising our thought process, it's good for us teachers to make mistakes and for children to see that we are also only human and that mistakes and errors are just part of the learning journey, albeit we'll have done them deliberately during the lesson. Mistakes provide opportunities for children to learn, so it's important that we take time to think about them and share them with the class. You could even have something like a marvellous mistakes wall or a best mistake of the week display up in the classroom, or you could have a big book of brilliant mistakes that children can create and contribute to throughout the year or the weeks. And this could be built on Within the classroom, you could have opportunities within the week or fortnight to reflect on the mistakes on the wall or in the big book and discuss what's been learnt from them. The fourth thing to think about is children having opportunities to learn both independently and collaboratively. When working independently, children are not solely reliant on the teacher, but they are accountable for their own learning. They may have opportunities to make choices about which resources they'd like to use or how they would like to record and show their thinking or strategies. But children can also learn so much from each other, so it's important that we provide them with opportunities to work collaboratively. We should encourage them to discuss their thinking and strategies, and we should provide them with problems that they need to work on together. By working collaboratively, children will be able to see how others work, and they will be able to chip in with their own ideas. They might also be more confident when tackling more challenging tasks as they have that safety net of working together. It's really important that we give children opportunities to work in mixed ability groups too, as research has shown that it benefits all learners, especially those who are lower achieving. It also helps to promote a growth mindset, which we just looked at a few moments ago. Through learning collaboratively, children will also develop more generic skills, including leadership, responsibility, resilience, and teamworking, that are essential for lifelong learning. And we also want our children to be able to persevere when the going gets tough. We want them to know that struggling is part of the process. In his TED Talk, Math Class Needs a Makeover, Dan Mayer says, "We need more patient problem solvers." So it's really important that we provide all children with tasks that require deep thinking and learning in order for them to develop their skills and perseverance. We don't want them to give up or throw in the towel too early. We want them to be curious. We want them to want to be able to solve a problem. It's often the case that the high achieving pupils are the very ones who find it difficult to persevere when presented with a challenge, as they have been so used to getting everything correct and working through tasks at a fast pace. And as Joe Bowler says, we want children to know that mathematical thinking is about depth, not speed. And we also want our learners to be able to use the correct mathematical vocabulary, because it's essential for their understanding. We want them to be able to engage in high quality discussion in numeracy and maths. And as you know, children are like little sponges, so we can teach them the correct terminology from a very young age. We must use and model the vocabulary ourselves so that children understand it and can use it when they are talking about their own learning. So this leads us nicely into math talk. So this is where we want to create a culture within our classrooms where children feel confident to contribute to discussion, and we want them to know that their contributions are valued by everyone in the room. It can often be the case that children notice their own errors as well, and they can self-correct when they hear themselves talking out loud. So children should be encouraged to share their thinking and the connections they are making, and we can do that by asking several different types of questions. What strategy did you use? Can you convince the rest of us that your answer makes sense? Would anyone else like to add to what was said? Did anyone get a different answer? And this is a really nice one, because you might get 3 or 4 different answers from children, which can all be put on the board. And then you can have a deep conversation around, well, why could it not be this answer, or why could it be this one? And you can ask children to come out and show their workings or what was going on in their head in order to arrive at that answer. So you can actually get a really good lesson out of just, in a bit of time and discussion around just that one question. Can you explain how you did that? And that comes back to those children having the vocabulary so they are able to do that. Why do you think that? Can you draw a picture to show that? How would you explain something in maths to someone who missed class today? So getting children again to think about the vocabulary and being able to explain what's going on in their head. And could you share that method with the class? So there's lots of different types of questions. There are many more than this that you might have yourselves, but this, certainly is enough to get us all started. So we also need to listen carefully to children and be genuinely interested in what connections they are making or not making. Building math talk into your lessons can be used as a method of formative assessment, as you'll be able to determine what children have learnt or haven't learnt, and then you can micro-adjust your lessons and your planning accordingly. And we also want children to know that asking questions is really important. So if you use exit tickets as part of a plenary sometimes, you could ask children to write down a question they still have about whatever it is they've been learning about in the lesson. And this could inform their planning of next steps. We must ensure that all children in the class, not just those who are confident and like to talk a lot and be heard a lot, are the ones who are participating and developing their skills in maths. We want all children to be contributing. And another nice idea is to get children to write about numeracy. So they could write a sentence in their jotter about what they've been learning in the lesson, or even what they're still not sure about. And this is really useful information for you as a teacher, again, to plan the next steps in the learning. And getting kids to write a sentence or two is also a good way of providing some evidence of the lesson, particularly if children have been working on whiteboards or more abstractly with manipulatives without any or much written work being produced during that lesson.
Thank you for watching this professional learning video produced by East Lothian Pedagogy team. We have many more Polish Up Your Pedagogy videos that you can access through the East Lothian Learning Library. To find out more about the service we provide, head over to East Lothian's EduHub website and search for Pedagogy under the Enabling Learning tab.